Hidden deep in the mountains of northern Italy, there's a village where people still whisper about a recipe nobody was ever allowed to write down. For nearly 60 years, only one woman knew how to make it correctly. Not her children, not her neighbors, not even the restaurant owners who spent decades trying to recreate it. And when Emilia Bellucci died during the winter of 1998, the village believed the recipe had disappeared forever. But years later, people began noticing something strange about the way Emilia used to cook. Near the border between Italy and Switzerland sits a quiet mountain village untouched by modern life. The roads are narrow, the winters are brutal, and nearly every home still smells of smoke, bread, and old firewood. Here, recipes are rarely measured. They're remembered, passed silently from one generation to another. And no recipe carried more mystery than Emilia's. Locals called it La Tavola Nera, the Black Table, a dark wartime dish believed it kept entire families alive during the Second World War. But what made the dish legendary wasn't just the flavor. It was the fact that nobody outside Emilia's family had ever seen the full preparation. People tried recreating it for decades, and every version failed. Some said the broth tasted flat. Others claimed the texture felt wrong. But according to one former chef from Milan, the real secret had nothing to do with the broth itself. And what Emilia did first completely changed the dish. The recipe began with onions, but not fresh onions. That was a mistake everyone made. Emilia hung onions from the ceiling of her kitchen for nearly 3 weeks before cooking them. At first, villagers believed she was simply preserving food for winter. But years later, one former neighbor finally explained why Emilia aged them first. As the onions slowly dried in cold mountain air, their sweetness deepened into something darker, smokier, almost earthy. And according to Emilia herself, fresh onions ruined the dish completely. But the onions were only the beginning, because what Emilia did to the garlic was the step nobody outside the family ever understood. Every winter, Emilia prepared black garlic beneath layers of linen cloth hidden inside a wooden cabinet near the fireplace. For weeks, the garlic slowly fermented in warmth and smoke. Its smell filled the kitchen gradually. Sweet, earthy, almost haunting. But years later, one forgotten detail finally explained why nobody could recreate the recipe correctly before adding the garlic to the pot. Emilia lightly smoked it over olive wood fire, not enough to burn it, just enough to give the dish its deep, mysterious aroma. And suddenly, decades of failed recipes finally started making sense. But according to villagers, the broth itself still held another secret. And what Emilia added next was the reason people never forgot the taste. Every morning before sunrise, Emilia walked alone into the hills carrying a small woven basket, even during winter storms. Even in old age, that's where she gathered wild thyme and mountain sage, while the herbs were still covered in morning fog. According to old village tradition, herbs picked after sunrise lost their spirit. Back inside the kitchen, Emilia melted butter slowly inside a blackened iron pot before adding the aged onions. But the important part wasn't the ingredients. It was the timing. The onions cooked slowly for nearly 40 minutes over low fire until they became deep brown and almost melted into the butter itself. Most people rushed this step. Emilia never did. Then came the smoked black garlic. Then rich bone broth made from roasted marrow bones, celery, carrots, lamb scraps, and leftover beef from winter dinners. The pot simmered beside low firelight for hours. Steam covered the kitchen windows. The smell drifted through the entire house. Warm, rich, comforting. The kind of smell that makes you hungry before even seeing the food. But the most important step of the recipe was still missing. And according to Emilia's niece, this was the part nobody was ever allowed to watch. Stale bread, hard as stone. Instead of serving it beside the dish, Emilia tore it directly into the simmering broth piece by piece. Slowly, patiently, the bread dissolved naturally into the soup, thickening it without flour or cream. That was the secret behind the texture. Velvety, smooth, rich without feeling heavy. But even then, the recipe still tasted incomplete, and for years, nobody understood why. until one final detail changed everything. Red wine vinegar, only a few drops, added at the very end before serving. Not enough to overpower the dish, just enough to brighten every layer of flavor hidden inside the broth. That tiny detail was what people missed for decades, and without it, the recipe never tasted complete. For years, the village believed Emilia Bellucci took the recipe to her grave, but piece by piece, the hidden method survived. Inside forgotten routines, inside old traditions, inside the memories of people who watched carefully without realizing what they were seeing. And now, the recipe once known by only one woman can finally be made again, just as Emilia made it all those winters ago, hidden inside a quiet mountain kitchen filled with smoke, steam, and candlelight. But according to villagers, Emilia never considered the dish just food. To her, it was memory, survival, family, a reminder of winters when hunger nearly destroyed the village. And perhaps that's why she protected the recipe for so long. Not because she wanted fame, but because some traditions were never meant to be rushed. Even today, older villagers still claim the smell returns during the coldest nights of January. Smoked garlic, burnt onions, warm broth slowly simmering over firelight, and fresh bread dissolving silently into the soup. A scent so familiar, some believe Emilia's kitchen never truly went cold. But one thing is certain. What was once known by only one woman is no longer hidden. And somewhere in northern Italy, someone may still be cooking La Tavola Nera exactly the way Emilia once did. If you enjoyed uncovering this hidden recipe, subscribe to The Hidden Dish for more forgotten European dishes, secret family recipes, and culinary mysteries hidden for generations. And before you leave, tell me in the comments, would you actually try Emilia Bellucci's hidden wartime recipe? Or should some secrets stay buried forever?